Welcome, weary travelers. You came here for the Sandman, but this is Netflix Sandman. And fortunately or unfortunately, the two are not synonymous. Before we begin, just a little preface. I have reviewed Netflix Sandman Season 1, and I'll have a link for your convenience if you want to check it out. Also, just to reiterate for anyone new, I am a Sandman fan. I have read and owned the entire 75 issue run, which I hold in high regards as one of the best comic runs of all time, and still recommend it as a must read. At this point, we all know about the allegations made on Neil Gaiman. I've already expressed my views about it on a different video. In regards to this review, what I think about him as a person will be considered irrelevant. This review is about the presentation and representation of Netflix Sandman to its source material, as well as my personal likes and dislikes. Now, with all of that said, pour yourself a tasty beverage and sit back, weary travelers. Let's begin. Episode 1, Season of Mists. For the comic book purist, you can follow along in issue 21. We begin with seeing Morpheus rebuilding the Dreaming, when he's interrupted by Brother Destiny calling for a family meeting. Being that Morpheus is busy, he is reluctant to leave. But in reality, he should be saying,
Shit, Negro, that's all you had to say.
before we continue, we have to discuss Black Destiny. Is he a race swapped character? Yes, he is. Does it matter? Story wise, no, it doesn't. In general, Destiny isn't a major character in The Sandman. Because a character neither affects the story very much and has limited screen time, it is in my opinion that his appearance and portrayal should adhere much closer to the source material. Why? Well, why not? A small character in relation to our main protagonist, it's the best and simplest way to bring some authenticity to the show, not to mention some attention to detail, which I will highlight as atrociously lacking. For the source material, Destiny never removes his hood, and his eyes are always cloaked in shadow. Right off the bat, that aspect is immediately thrown out the window. As this is an aspect of his character portrayed in the source material, it leaves me with the question of why? It requires no special effects at all. I don't know who this actor is, so being able to see his face adds nothing to the viewers that have read the source material, nor does it add anything to the viewers that haven't read the source material. So, what is required for a person to portray Destiny? He is said to be the tallest and eldest of the family, and granted, we would want him to have a voice that holds some gravitas to it, right? Someone like this guy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wick. It's been a long time.
So maybe having Peter Serafinowicz as Destiny is wish casting. But 1, it would have been cool. 2, it would have worked. And 3, it would have been accurate to the source material. That's 3 W's across the board. However, this isn't The Sandman. This is Netflix Sandman.
Shit.
Meaning it is the antithesis of being a cool alpha male. And just like season 1, the wokest choices will always be chosen.
Sort your fucking life out, mate!
So instead of choosing an actor that looks the part and could portray the character per the source material, we get an actor that 1, doesn't look the part,
Shit.
2, doesn't portray the character accurately,
Shit.
and 3, doesn't bring any positive nuances to the character. That's 3 L's across the board.
Shit.
When you think about the casting of the show, do you really think there were no better alternatives than this actor? Given the shameless woke casting in season 1, with all of the race and gender swapped characters, how can one not draw the conclusion that this is just another DEI hire?
Fucking hell, it is.
But then again, what else is new? Let's soldier on. Black Destiny calls Black Death. Now we have to revisit Black Death for a moment. We were introduced to Black Death in season 1. Of all the people they could have chosen to be Death, why did they choose her? She doesn't look like Death in the slightest bit. If you were channel surfing and you stopped on one of her scenes, there's no way a Sandman reader would make the conclusion that she is Death from the comics.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, we already know that Death was modeled after Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees. In the comics, we can see a resemblance. A little spunky goth girl. This actor is neither little, nor goth, nor pale white.
Oh, yeah?
Obviously, I'm biased from the source material, and because of it, She is absolutely jarring whenever she's on screen.
What the fuck is this?
So let me try to take the physical appearance out and judge her on the portrayal of the character only. In my opinion, it's just as bad. Bad not only acting wise, but most probably in direction as well. As I stated in my Season 1 Episode 6 review, although the dialogue she says are for the most part accurate, the line delivery is weak.
You are utterly the stupidest, most self-centered, pathetic excuse for an anthropomorphic personification on this or any other plane.
It's a complete crap.
I don't know if that is because of the acting or the directing, but probably both. These same issues arise again in this season, which we will drill down soon enough. Let's look at the facts for a moment. Death is a pale, petite goth girl. The actor that the woke showrunners picked is neither pale, nor petite, nor goth. Now ask yourself, do you believe that they had any intention of casting a white British girl for the role, which would have been in line with the source material if this is what we got?
Pathetic.
Jenna Ortega was more goth in Wednesday than this chick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
With England and its overcast days and underground music culture, they'd be able to easily find a pale little goth girl, right?
Yeah.
But then I have to remind myself, this isn't Sandman. It's Netflix Sandman. If a role is available, it will be filled by a box-checking DEI hire.
Poor girl in town, what's fucking hell?
Now, let's soldier on. Morpheus is summoned, and then Desire. Now, you probably thought I'd go on another diatribe about Desire, but no. The character is source material accurate, and portrayed accurately. I have no issues with Desire at all.
No way.
Then we get to Despair. This is another horrible rendition. She doesn't represent the source material at all, and it isn't even debatable. I mean, they didn't even try. It's a completely poor and lazy reimagining, if you can even call it that. If you're not going to try, then clearly the showrunners aren't the right people for the job. Now you might be saying, there's no way they could use the source material portrayal of Despair. I'm not saying it has to be spot on accurate, but look at the difference. Do you see a speck of resemblance?
Wow, is she fat? Would you look at those windows?
Besides that, no, there isn't. And that's an absolute fail, because the showrunners were cheap and lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Then we get Delirium. I was looking forward to seeing this rendition, and all I could think of was the word miming. Just like Black Death, she isn't acting as Delirium, but miming the character. With that said, it would have taken a good actor to truly portray Delirium accurately. Again, it isn't all on the actor, but the writers and directors too. We'll dive deeper in the brief live story arc. So now that the Endless are all here, Black Destiny tells him they were called here because he had a run-in with the Grey Ladies. He doesn't say anything else, and they are all just to be here together. The conversation eventually moves to Morpheus and his past relationships, and Desire brings up Nada, who was from Season 1. Upset, Morpheus leaves the room and has a private conversation with Black Death. Now, the conversation around the table is pretty much accurate to the source material. However, when Morpheus excuses himself, Netflix Sandman cuts to Black Death talking to Morpheus in private. In the comic, Desire makes a snide comment in Morpheus' absence, and Death says, "Shut up, Desire. If you ever want to speak again, shut up." What do these 3 panels amount to? 5? 10 seconds of screen time? These 3 omitted panels speak volumes of character, and Netflix Sandman omits it?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Now ask yourself, why? The entire conversation around the table is accurate to the source material, but they omit these final 3 panels that would amount to at the most 10 seconds of runtime? You can't tell me this was omitted due to time. For the narrative of wokeness, it's always right to dump on the white male. However, you can't shine a negative light on a trans, even by a POS female.
Fucking hell.
This, quote, creative choice proves Netflix Sandman will always choose the wokest path, will always be traveled. But then again, what else is new?
Yeah. Yeah, That's right.
So Black Death tries to console Morpheus, and she tells him damning Nada to hell was wrong. Then we get a flashback explaining who Nada was. For the comic book purist, you can follow along on issue 9. Nada is the mythical African queen of the first people that inhabited a large city of glass. It was told she was a just and wise ruler and was the most beautiful woman the sun has ever seen. Now, with that said, that begs the question, was this the best actor that he could have chosen for Nada? The Netflix Sandman version says she dreamed not of herself, but of her people, and dreamed of a city that was absent of disease, poverty, or politics, and she made her dream a reality.
Oh, yeah?
Being that this statement isn't source material, let's drill down a bit. It was absent of disease. As a ruler, how does one keep disease out of the city? They can't trade with outsiders, because that would be a possible way of introducing the disease into the city, right?
Yeah.
Thus, the only way of making this happen is by isolating the city from the outside. Do you think that's a good thing? Just looking at history, how many years did ancient China stunt their development because they decided not to explore the world and stay isolated? But I digress.
Stupid!
Absent of poverty, meaning nobody was poor. Now, how would she accomplish this exactly? Redistribution of wealth, meaning socialistic policies.
No! Wait a minute, man!
What happens when you give a deadbeat free money? They stay a deadbeat, and why wouldn't they? They didn't have to do anything to get free money. On the other end of the spectrum, the rich person that earned his income has a portion confiscated to be redistributed to people that produce nothing and offer no benefit to society. Because of this, he doesn't look to increase his production to increase his income, but rather reduces it so less of his income will be confiscated by the government. But then again, this is a mythical city imagined after Star Trek's socialistic utopian society. So I guess we'll just have to go with it.
Fucking hell.
A city absent of politics. This means there's a one party rule, and everybody agrees with that one party. Now, how does that happen? Easy. By killing everybody that disagrees with you. Nobody is allowed to have a differing opinion from the queen. So, what does that mean? It means she's a tyrannical ruler, or her subjects are too stupid to have any critical thought on their own. Whichever is true, both are bad outcomes. When Galileo proved Copernicus's findings, did that benefit the world? Or was the Catholic Church right in forcing him to recant? Again, none of this is source material. Who wrote this garbage and thought it was gold? It's absolute trash. The writer, showrunners, and execs that greenlit this idiotic dialogue, especially when they already have the source material to follow, should be fired and never get a job in the field ever again.
Get the fuck out of here!
Now, with that out of the way, let's look at the city itself and how it's presented. Now, let me remind you, this is supposed to be an ancient city, an ancient African city of the first people. Being that this is a myth, I understand and I'm open to exaggerations of technology, much like the fictional city of Wakanda. And let me remind you that this is supposed to be a sub-Saharan Africa. What's the first thing we see? Arabian architecture. Strange as it has nothing to do with African aesthetics at all. But then again, there really isn't any sub-Saharan architecture to discuss.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
What's next? Snow. Does it snow very often in Africa? Maybe this city is built atop Mount Kilimanjaro.
Stupid!
What are they wearing? Victorian era clothing. 100% European. I don't even think the do-rags on their heads are African inspired either. These creative choices the show has made are interesting. Why did they choose to represent an ancient African city with non African aesthetics, uncommon African weather, with African wearing European inspired clothing? Just by appearance alone, what tells me this city is in Africa, let alone ancient Africa? That's right, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And again, it begs the question, why? Why did the show make these choices? Regarding the architecture, the images are completely CGI. Thus, they could have made the city look as African as they wanted it to look. Given the lack of attention to detail, the reason why I think the city looks the way it did is because there already was an Arabian city in the system, and instead of building an African city from scratch, they just used the existing Arabian one and tweaked it to make it their own. Yes, this is pure speculation on my part, but given what we got from this episode, it seems like a reasonable conclusion. Why the snow? I have no idea. I guess they wanted to imagine a Christmas like atmosphere.
Pathetic.
Then finally, the Victorian era clothing. My guess is because of budget. They didn't have African clothing, but they did have Victorian clothing lying around from the Bridgerton sets, so they just used what they already had.
Fucking hell.
If I'm right, this is proof just how lazy and cheap the showrunners are. Clearly, there's no attention to detail in making this episode. Now, let's soldier on with the story. As Nana walks with her mother, or council, the mother tells her that people gossip about her and says she should take on a husband. In the source material, Nana simply says, "Where, then, is the man for me?" The line of dialogue is clean and succinct. It's already been explained she is a wise and beautiful ruler. As a parent would have expectations of who their kids will marry, we would also have expectations of the person our ruler would marry as well. It's all implied. Now, what's the Netflix version do? She says this.
Who puts his duties above his own needs? And his eyes burn with love for me.
Now ask yourself, why? Why isn't there a single man in the city that fits her criteria? Now imagine yourself in the man's place and fulfilling her requirements. How would you feel being in a relationship with her? Would you feel equal to her? Would she? If one would have to constantly prioritize her or the people's wishes over your own, can one really be happy?
No.
It is possible, but it would require one to be a simp. Now let's turn the tables and apply her criteria on herself. Does she put her duties above her own? If her duties as queen is to take a husband, then shouldn't she get married to a guy rather than waiting for the man of her dreams?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Then Nada sees Morpheus as quite fool, and they have a brief chat. Morpheus states some platitudes, and then leaves, monologuing how impressed he was, not at her beauty, but rather at her devotion to her people.
What? What?
Did you hear that? He didn't want to bang her because she was hot. He wanted to bang her because she was devoted to her people.
Bullshit.
So if Nada looked more like his sister Despair while being devoted to her people, he still would want to bang her? So Nana tells her guards to search for Morpheus, and she searches for her in her sleep when she meets Morpheus in her dream. When she finally sees his face and realizes Kaikuli's dream. Then we get this from Nada.
Only disaster would follow from it. Disaster for you, for me, for my people.
Based off of this line reading, it's clear she wasn't chosen for her acting abilities, but by her appearance.
This is shit, but hey,
Then Morpheus discounts everything she says and asks her to be his wife, and if she says no, he'll leave. And then Nada reaches down to him and pulls him up and kisses him, and they end up banging. And because of their union, a meteor strikes down upon the city, destroying it and all the denizens. Now let's review. Being that Nada was probably sleeping in her chambers in the city, why she didn't die from the meteor strike makes no sense. Do you see any attention to detail on display at all? None whatsoever. And I don't think they even cared. Anyway, Nada says this is the result of them being together, and if she continues to be with him, only bad things will come, and tells him to forget about her. Then she says she'll suffer for eternity for this because it's her duty. Granted, she feels guilty about what happened, and rightfully so, she should feel this way as it was her fault if her reasonings are correct. But she has to suffer? She can't move on and make the most of the rest of her life? She can't try to make amends to the error she committed?
What the fuck are you babbling about?
Then Morpheus tells her if she would rather suffer for eternity than rule with him for eternity. She says yes, and that's pretty much it. You know the rest. And this is the problem with this scene. It's completely abridged, leaving out all of the reasonings and motivations for why this happens. Upon seeing quite cool with Morpheus, Nada knew it would be wrong for them to be together and runs away. Morpheus hunts her down relentlessly, and she eventually succumbs to his desires, which results in the city being destroyed. When she realizes what her actions has caused, she kills herself instead of being with Morpheus. He tells her that he still wants her, and that she can choose to be his queen in the dreaming, and still she chooses death. And because of her spurning his love, he damns her to hell.
That's your advice? Go to bed.
All of the character motivations are gone. The actions of Morpheus, showing to what ends he would do to be with Nada, is gone. What we get is this because I said so version, which is so lazy and pathetic. Again, if the writers and directors are too lazy to flesh out these character motivations, then why did they take on the job in the first place?
Fucking hell.
Now, back to the present. He leaves back to the dreaming and prepares for his journey where he speaks to his insolent minions, Lucian, Mervyn, and Matthew.
Assholes.
For the comic book purists, you can follow along in issue 22. Morpheus informs that he's already sent an envoy to Hell to announce his arrival. Then we see Cain delivering the message to Lucifer in the most boring way possible. Just him telling Lucifer that he's coming. We don't get any menace from Lucifer or Hell as a location. We don't get why Cain can't be harmed. I know they can't show everything, but the choices to expand on certain aspects while not expanding on others is driven not by story, but rather by the wokest path presented. Anyway, we see Morpheus visit Lyta Hall's baby, and they have a brief exchange. Then we see Morpheus meeting up with Hop Gadling, telling him he might miss their next scheduled meeting. Then Cain arrives back into dreaming and tells him that Lucifer is horrible and will be waiting. Then Morpheus goes to hell. And that's the end of episode 1. Now, just like season 1, these are the same writers, and just like season 1, the show hits the main story beats of the source material, while omitting nuanced character details and changing others. So if you read The Sandman after you watched the show, you'd say, yeah, it's the same story, but the characters act differently, especially the Sandman. So what did I think of the first episode of season 2? Well, I'll give the show a bit of credit, as Morpheus isn't as much of a bitch as he was in season 1. However, he's still a bitch. Now we have to get into the bad. And as you probably already know, there is a lot of bad. I don't like Black Destiny. The portrayal is poor, and the actor seems pompous, knowing more than the others. I don't see it like that. If one knew the future while unable to affect the stated outcome, one wouldn't act pompous about it, but just resign to the fact that whatever will happen, will happen. Black Death is horrible. Given she doesn't resemble the source material in any way, and now seeing more of her acting skills, it really makes me question what favors did she have to do to be placed on the top of the DEI hire list.
This is shit, but hey.
Nada and her city of anachronism. An absolute display of zero attention to detail. Cheap and lazy.
It's a complete crap.
Nada wanting a simp for a husband. Remember, she met every man in the city, and she's supposed to be the most beautiful the sun has ever seen. Her criteria was a man who put his duties above his own with eyes that burned for love for her. So which part do you think the men failed? The duties or the love? We know which one. So let me applaud every man for not being a simp for a queen with an obvious princess attitude. The omission of showing Morpheus pursue Nada is poor and lazy storytelling. The story is right here in front of them, but the showrunners were either too cheap or too lazy to do the work and show this on screen. Seeing Morpheus pursue Nada to no end, only to have her end up committing suicide and still choosing death in the afterlife over being with him shows us, rather than tells us, how much Nada meant to him and why, out of spite, he damns her to hell. People do stupid things when in love, and people do hurtful things when their love is rejected. And as wrong and impulsive Morpheus was, by seeing this, we can at least understand his rationale on why he did what he did. Then there's the omission of the 3 panels between death and desire. They seem insignificant in regards to the story as a whole, but omitting them, ignoring, or flat out changing them completely changes our perception of the characters. Not only is that wrong, but it clearly proves the showrunners adhere to a woke narrative over being accurate to the source material.
That's fucked up.
Now, the preparations for Hell. The scenes with Lyda Hall and Hob Gadling are fine, but scenes with Kane and Lucifer are crap. There's no reason to jam all of this in the episode if they didn't have the runtime, but just like season 1, the show doesn't care or feel the need to show character developing moments, but only hitting the beats of the main storyline, thus allowing the showrunners to fill in the gaps with whatever woke narrative they see fit. Finally, let's touch upon the look of the show. The CG is whatever, obvious green screens, and the volume set. Did the City of Glass look good? A couple of pure CG wide shots and some shots in the volume? It was unimpressive. What about the dreaming? It's okay. Nothing special. I'm not wowed by anything. So, like season 1, let's give this episode a grade. If I saw this, not knowing anything about the source material, I'd give it a 5. The City of Anachronism is jarring. Not asking for a simp for a husband is a joke. The portrayal of Lucifer is pathetic, and the acting across the board is weak. Having read the source material, I'll give it a 2. In addition to everything I already stated, the story omissions are poor creative choices. The casting is atrociously bad, and Hell is once again just Lucifer's parlor.
Fucking hell, it is.
There is no attention to detail on display at all in this episode. Of all the showrunners, the only one that would really care in producing a quality product would be Neil Gaiman. It is his story after all. Given he was more hands on in season 1, and still giving us an abomination of the source material, it is more than safe to say he sold out. Now, with him pushed aside, that tiny bit of care to his story is now gone, leaving us with the other two showrunners. Seeing what we got, clearly they're on autopilot. They don't care about the product that makes it on screen, but rather just being on time and on budget. Then they can move on to projects that they do care about. As tragic as this sounds, nothing was going to prevent this from happening because season 1 already showed us what they were going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And as Neil Gaiman, being the creator of these stories and these characters, although he does not own the rights to them, as an executive producer, he could have been the gatekeeper to the show and reject all of the story and character changes. Again, he could have stood up for his work, but he didn't. He sold out in season 1, and he definitely wouldn't have a change of heart now in season 2. And that's why we got what we got.
God damn it!
If you read The Sandman prior to watching the Netflix version and you liked the show, please comment and tell me why. I am curious to know your reasonings. And that'll do it for this video. If there was any hope that this season was going to correct the mistakes that they made from the first season, they're all dashed right here in this first episode. There's nothing to look forward to, but rather just watch out of morbid curiosity in what choices the showrunners have made in ruining these stories. So, weary travelers, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon in episode 2's review. Until then,
This is shit, but hey.
Don't waste yourself.